Conventional wisdom would tell you that 3 is the magic number, but Nintendo didn't need 3 games to cast a spell with the original Splatoon. When it arrived in 2015, it was by far and away the most exciting new IP that Nintendo had come up with in years, to the point that 1/3 of all Wii U owners snapped it up. The sequel on the far more popular Nintendo Switch arrived in the console's launch year, but it easily managed to reach more than twice as many people as the console's sales ballooned. Splatoon 3 is now rocking up with a chaotic new attitude and the potential to reach even more people. So, with so many potential newcomers to the franchise, what is Splatoon? It boils down to being a multiplayer shooter where, yes, you can splat the enemy team, but the real aim is to splatter the environments with paint as a way of claiming territory. Each match is a short and pithy 3 minutes, which is just enough time for that initial foray, then a battle for supremacy in the middle, and then to stage last-ditch comeback efforts. As the music speeds up and the clock counts down, your heart rate picks up as you try to cover that final bit of extra ground and secure the win. That's Turf War, and that is the main mode in Splatoon, but it's also joined by what is now called Anarchy Battle once you've leveled up enough. This adds in different game objectives, modifying modes like Capture the Flag and Control in truly inventive ways that fit the ink-obsessed game world. Alas, we weren't able to try these out given the limited online time prior to release, but the main multiplayer mode felt solid enough, and the fundamental game modes here remain from Splatoon 2. Also returning from the previous games are a whole host of inventive weapons, all capable of spewing out ink in different ways. It's up to you to pick the right ones for the job, whether it's the standard issue splatter shot, sniper rifles, paint rollers, buckets of paint, brushes, umbrellas, or the new TriCaster triple shot bow and Splatana ink flinging sword thingy. One of the best ways to learn the ropes with them all is to head down a sewer grate and take in the single player story. The Zapfish has disappeared once again, and you're going to be handed the role of Agent 3 to try and bring it back, delving into a strange underworld with new enemies to face and strangely fuzzy Octarians as their goons. There's actually some rather unexpected new antagonists, and the world structure here is nice and engaging. You unlock areas by throwing your little buddy's small fry companion, charged up with power eggs that you've acquired through playing the levels, to devour some weird fuzzy purple gloop that is covering so much of the land. You've also got plenty of freedom to try and explore the whole world of fuzziness, or to make a beeline for the main objectives as much as possible. Each level is a bite-sized encounter, sometimes throwing you into an assault course filled with enemies, other times giving you an off-kilter painting task, or a single-shot sniper rifle challenge. This is something that has been common to the previous 2 games as well, and they're interspersed with some fun boss battles along the way, and build up to a lengthy final multi-stage mission and bombastic final fight. I'd have loved to see more of this narrative level design throughout the first 2/3 or 3/4 of the campaign, where it does really feel like we're retreading some rather familiar ground, but it does build up to quite a good and fun finish. Another way to check out the weapons is with Salmon Run, this co-op mode tasking you with defeating waves of salmonid enemies, taking out boss salmonid, and then snagging their eggs. It's a mixture of pure survival and concerted, coordinated attack that is still so Moorish, and that's especially true since you can now play it whenever you want. Splatoon 2 would always limit this mode in weird ways with the time restrictions, but now you can play it 24/7. There's also a couple of new boss types and a new kaiju-sized king salmonid that sometimes appears to add a 4th, even more desperate round at the end. One of the biggest quality of life changes here is the ability to throw eggs, and it is a fantastic improvement, letting you get that one final egg into the basket just as the time is ticking down, or coordinating your efforts and throwing eggs between the players. Considering that Nintendo got so much right with the core concept from the very first game, it wasn't much of a surprise that Splatoon 2 covered a lot of the same ground with some fresh ink, bringing in a cluster of new maps and weapons, sticking with a similar structure for the single player, and throwing the Salmon Run co-op mode in for good measure. Splatoon 3, it turns out, is a similarly direct kind of sequel. This is evolution, not revolution. It's an excuse to return to this bizarre world, to dash through the single player, dive into turf war, lap up the new Splatfests, and pull a few shifts in Salmon Run all over again. It's pretty homely in that regard. Longtime fans will also immediately recognise the way that Splatoon 3 locks the multiplayer to feature just 2 maps at a time, how weapon variants come with predetermined throwables and ultimate attack loadouts, and plenty of other common ground. But there will also be best placed to appreciate all of the small ways that Nintendo has improved and tightened up this experience as a whole. For example, when loading up the game and at the top of the hour, there's still an announcement broadcast from the new presenter trio to reveal the new map selection. But you can now just play this in the background instead of having to sit through it each and every time. Similarly, when you're matchmaking and between rounds, you can quickly choose to switch out your loadout and stick with the same group of players, instead of having to constantly back out to the main lobby. And once you've done that, the matchmaking process runs in the background as you hang out in a shooting range. And as I've already said, Salmon Run is now available to play whenever you want. These are all great improvements, but it's also fair to say that we've seen other franchises and games get similarly significant quality of life overhauls arriving in a simple game update. Perhaps the biggest new addition is the 2-stage Splatfests. These are the regular in-game events which now pose a 3-way question to the community. The deep-cut idols of Shiver, Fry and Big Man each give an answer to this question, and then they ask you to join and fight for their side. The first half of this event will play out exactly the same as before, matchmaking your team from your side against another team of 4 and tallying up the regional wins and losses. But the second half now adds a 3-way battle into the mix, with the leading team now supplying a team of 4 players and then having to defend the middle of a stage while 2 pairs from the other team spawn on either flank. From the Splatfest world premiere demo that ran a couple of weekends ago, this could do with a little bit of balancing. It's just a bit too easy for the middle team to be squeezed and for the other teams to make a large comeback in the overall rankings. It's a fun twist, but it needs a little bit of tweaking in that regard, it feels like. At the end of the day, Splatoon 3 is a bit like your mum making your favourite meal when you head home for the holidays. It's been a good few years since the last game, and so if you're a returning player, you can appreciate everything that's being offered here, or if you're a long-time player, then you can appreciate the changes that are being made. And there are some great improvements and additions. But at its heart, this is the same old Splatoon. Then again, that is still pretty great. That's all that we've got for our Splatoon 3 review, and I hope that you have found this useful and enjoyed what you've seen in the background. Before you go, make sure to like, subscribe, click the bell, do the usual YouTube things, and hopefully we will see you again soon. Goodbye!